From the dawn of time, humanity has been drawn to that which challenges its understanding. Events that escape logical and scientific explanation provoke not only fascination, but also fear and uncertainty. Throughout history, these mysterious episodes have often been linked to supernatural forces or hidden conspiracies in an attempt to fill the void left by the lack of answers. However, to what extent can we trust what is officially disclosed? And what if some of these stories carried hidden truths, camouflaged by centuries of control and manipulation? You may call it paranoia. I call it vision. This is Light, better known as L, and together we're going to break the code they've hidden from you. But remember, every shared discovery enlightens new minds. Help the channel grow, like, share, and subscribe so that we can reach more people on our journey. From letters written in indecipherable languages to apparitions that challenge the senses, the accounts continue to pile up, forcing us to ask, are we dealing with supernatural events or carefully kept secrets? In 1676, in the convent of Palma di Montechiaro in southern Italy, a disconcerting incident shook the strict silence of monastic life. The nun Maria Crocifissa della Concezione was found collapsed in her room, her face smeared with ink, and a letter in her hands. Just imagine, a silent convent, everyone in a prayerful mood, and out of nowhere, a nun on the floor, covered in ink, holding a bizarre letter. If that's not the start of a mystery, I don't know what is. The document, written in an unknown language, contained symbols that appeared to be beyond any common writing system. The episode was quickly interpreted as a diabolical manifestation, an event that would echo through the centuries. The letter, according to the nun herself, was dictated by the devil himself. The symbols, apparently incomprehensible, followed no linguistic structure known at the time. Despite her claims, Maria was known as a devout and disciplined woman, incapable of forging something so complex on her own. But what really happened that night? Was Maria under the influence of something supernatural, or was she a victim of a psychological condition still little understood at the time? The convent, typical of the 17th century, followed a routine of austerity. The nuns spent their days in prayer, manual work, and reverent silence. Any behavior that broke this balance was quickly noticed. When Maria's murmurs and screams echoed through the corridors, her companions ran to her side. What they found seemed straight out of a nightmare. The letter was quickly taken to scholars and members of the clergy, who analyzed it with caution. Despite their efforts, no one was able to decipher its content. The complexity of the symbols puzzled even the most experienced linguists and theologians. In the absence of answers, the supernatural explanation gained strength. But was it really that simple? The historical context helps us understand why this event caused such an impact. The 17th century was a period marked by fear of the occult and by the belief in the constant presence of the devil. Any out-of-the-ordinary behavior, especially in religious settings, was quickly associated with demonic influence. The idea that Maria might have been possessed made sense to the mindset of the time. But how to explain the sophistication of the letter? Over the centuries, the letter remained an indecipherable enigma. It was only in 2018, more than 300 years later, that a group of Italian researchers decided to revisit the case with a scientific approach. Using decoding software found on the deep web, the scientists compared the symbols of the letter with various ancient and modern languages. The result was as disturbing as the document's very origin. Parts of the text were translated. The message contained statements that would shake the foundations of any religious institution. It said that God and Jesus were human inventions, that religion was a prison for souls, and it referred to the river Styx from Greek mythology as a barrier between life and death. How could a 17th century nun, with no access to advanced mythological or linguistic knowledge, create something so elaborate? The discovery rekindled debates that had lain dormant. For skeptics, the letter could be the result of an altered psychological state, such as schizophrenia or dissociation caused by the oppressive environment of a convent. The human mind, even in isolation, might be capable of accessing deep levels of the subconscious, drawing on symbols stored unconsciously. But was that explanation sufficient? Others pointed to the possibility of a mediumistic trance, in which Maria might have channeled information from an external source, whether spiritual or even demonic. Although rejected by many scholars, this theory found support among those who believe in the power of the supernatural. After all, how to explain the accuracy of certain pieces of information contained in the letter? Maria's case was not isolated. Throughout history, other accounts of letters or texts supposedly dictated by supernatural entities have emerged, but few carry the same complexity and mystery. Was Maria's letter an exception or proof that there is something beyond human understanding? The lack of detailed records about Maria's fate also contributes to the mystery. It is unknown how she dealt with the consequences of this event or how her companions reacted in the long term. All that remains is the letter, preserved as a reminder that not even in places of absolute faith can the inexplicable be ignored. This episode raises an essential question. To what extent are we prepared to face something that contradicts our deepest certainties? Was Maria's letter a manifestation of evil or a reflection of human limitations? In May 2018, in the quiet town of Hobbs, New Mexico, an unexpected phenomenon caught the attention of believers and skeptics alike. Inside the Church of Our Lady of Guadalupe, a statue of the Virgin Mary began to weep. The liquid, initially mistaken for water or condensation, turned out to be something far more peculiar: perfumed oil, used in religious ceremonies. The origin of the tears remained a mystery, but the impact was immediate. The small church soon became a pilgrimage site. People from various regions arrived, attracted by the inexplicable. For many, the statue wept as a divine sign of sorrow for humanity's suffering. Others, more skeptical, suspected fraud or some natural explanation. But if it was fraud, why did no one find evidence? And if it was something natural, how could perfumed oil be present? The composition of the liquid intrigued investigators even more. The oil was identified as chrism, a sacred substance used in baptisms and ordinations. However, the statue showed no mechanism or reservoir that could explain its production. Experts analyzed its internal structure carefully, looking for leaks or tampering, but found nothing to indicate a trick. Was that enough to convince skeptics? Reports of weeping statues are not new. Since the 17th century, similar events have been recorded in various parts of the world. In 1643, in the city of Rottweil, Germany, a statue of the Virgin Mary reportedly wept while the city was facing a French invasion. On that occasion, the phenomenon was interpreted as a sign of comfort in times of crisis. But why do these events seem to occur in moments of great collective suffering? In Bangladesh, in 2003, a statue wept in front of a crowd, drawing thousands of people seeking healing and answers. In 2017, in India, another image of the Virgin Mary exuded a reddish liquid, which many believed to be blood. Although investigations have ruled out some occurrences as fraud, others remained unexplained. Could all manifestations be lumped together? The Catholic Church, traditionally cautious, rarely recognizes these phenomena as miracles. Before any official statement, rigorous investigations are conducted. In the case of Hobbs, the technical analysis found no explanation, but that was not enough for the Church to issue a definitive verdict. Why is the Church so hesitant? Could it be avoiding validating something it does not fully understand? Conspiracy theories suggest that these events may be divine messages ignored or suppressed by the religious institution itself. If there are warning signs, why do they occur in such specific places? Some point out that tears appear in fervent communities, reflecting the collective faith. Others believe these are intentional supernatural manifestations, yet with a purpose we still do not comprehend. The composition of the oil in Hobbs raised more questions. Chrism, traditionally consecrated in Catholic rituals, is rare outside controlled contexts. How could it spontaneously appear in an ordinary statue? And more intriguingly, why did the phenomenon start in May, stop in July, and reappear in September? Was there a pattern or message behind these intervals? Cases of weeping statues also challenge the limits of science. Experts have suggested explanations such as condensation caused by temperature differences or even chemical reactions in the materials. However, such hypotheses do not explain the composition of the liquid or its recurrence at specific times. Is science incapable of going further, or are we dealing with something that does not belong to the natural realm? The accounts of those who witnessed the phenomenon are consistent. Many describe a feeling of peace or a spiritual presence when observing the tears. Even those who initially doubted, such as local skeptics, admitted the phenomenon defied their expectations. How can we explain the emotional impact of these manifestations? In some cases, the phenomena are accompanied by supposed miracles. Believers report healings or profound changes in their lives after witnessing a weeping statue. This suggests a power beyond the tangible, but could it be the very power of faith responsible for these transformations? Or is there truly something more? Other historical events draw intriguing parallels. In Akita, Japan, a statue of the Virgin Mary reportedly wept 101 times between 1973 and 1981. Along with the tears, apocalyptic messages were associated with the phenomenon, predicting global disasters. Could Hobbes just be another chapter in this narrative of divine warnings? Regardless of investigations, the fascination with weeping statues persists. These manifestations seem to touch on something deep in the human psyche, a desire for connection with the divine or a search for hope in uncertain times. But are they signs of comfort or warnings we choose to ignore? The statue of Hobbes remains silent, but the enigma it represents is still alive. Perhaps we will never know if its tears are a supernatural phenomenon, an unexplainable mystery, or a reminder of our need for something greater. In September 1846, in the peaceful mountains of La Salette, France, two young shepherds, Melanie Calvat and Maximin Giroux, tended their sheep as they did every day. What began as a normal day would become one of the most enigmatic events in religious history. They reported seeing a woman sitting on a rock, silently weeping. The glow around her was so intense it seemed to encompass the entire landscape. The figure was unlike anyone the youths had ever seen. Her clothes shone like the sun, adorned with flowers, and her expression, though beautiful, conveyed deep sadness. Imagine the scene, a woman shining like the sun on a mountainside. Not even the best special effects could explain that. Melanie and Maximin, two simple children with no advanced religious education, described her as the Virgin Mary. But what would bring a heavenly figure to appear before two isolated shepherds? As they approached, the woman began to speak. Her tone was firm, but filled with concern. She lamented humanity's growing distance from God, pointing to the disregard for holy days and the misuse of the divine name. There was also a direct warning. If the situation did not change, a great famine would strike the region. Only a few years later, the potato blight devastated crops throughout Europe, leading to misery and death. Could this famine have been the realization of her prophecy? The children returned to the village and shared what had happened with the locals. Their descriptions were surprisingly consistent, even when questioned separately by religious leaders. This consistency attracted attention and sparked investigations. How could such simple children create such an elaborate and detailed narrative without ever contradicting themselves? The location of the apparition, a remote and seldom visited area, was investigated by ecclesiastical authorities. During inspections, a curious detail stood out. A small stream, previously non-existent, had begun to flow there. Reports of miraculous cures linked to the water soon spread, drawing pilgrims. But was this spring a divine gift or merely a coincidence that fueled popular faith? Although many believed the children, skepticism also arose. Some suggested that Melanie and Maximin had been manipulated by adults or that the whole thing was just a childish fantasy. Yet the precise details and consistent descriptions of the heavenly figure left little room for such explanations. Why would the children stick to their story despite pressure and threats? Religious authorities of the time, acting with caution, thoroughly analyzed the case before officially recognizing the apparition in 1851. The event turned La Salette into a pilgrimage center where thousands sought hope and spiritual renewal. Still, the church withheld parts of the message, claiming its content was intended only for the clergy. Why would such an urgent message be kept secret? Conspiracy theories surrounding La Salette suggest that the Virgin's warnings went beyond an agricultural crisis. Some believe she predicted global-scale events, possibly cautioning about moral decline and the dangers of a society disconnected from spirituality. Did the Church silence part of her message out of fear of its implications? The event's impact was felt not only in the village, but throughout France. The famine predicted by the apparition coincided with the Great Irish Famine and agricultural crises in other countries. This raised the question: was the prophecy a divine warning or just a calculated prediction of the era's economic and climatic conditions? The fate of Melanie and Maximin also fuels the mystery. Both faced difficulties after the event, including skepticism and social isolation. Melanie, in particular, became a target of criticism for her later statements, in which she revealed more about the message she claimed to have received. But why would a witness uphold her story throughout her life if she did not believe in the truth of what she saw? The apparition also brought cultural and religious changes to La Salette. Besides the sanctuary built on the site, the Virgin's message inspired a movement of renewed faith. Even so, the apparition remains steeped in controversy. Was it a divine manifestation, a social construct, or something we still cannot comprehend? Other similar cases, such as the apparitions in Fatima or Lourdes, raise intriguing parallels. Why do Marian apparitions often occur in remote places before humble witnesses? Is it connected to the idea that simplicity is needed to receive divine messages? Or is there something more about these locations, like specific energies that facilitate such phenomena? La Salette remains a mystery to this day. The Virgin's warning continues to echo, while events associated with the place defy rational explanation. The stream discovered during investigations still flows, attracting those who seek healing and miracles. But is it truly a gift from heaven, or just a natural phenomenon that faith has embraced? This event compels us to ponder: if such apparitions really occur, what is their ultimate purpose? Are we interpreting these messages correctly, or failing to recognize their true intent? From the earliest centuries of Christianity, sacred relics have fascinated believers, carrying a mystery that transcends generations. Objects like the Shroud of Turin, the Spear of Destiny, and the countless pieces of the so-called True Cross are venerated for their spiritual and symbolic power. Yet their authenticity and the inexplicable phenomena surrounding them remain fertile ground for intense debate and conspiracy. The Shroud of Turin, for instance, is perhaps the best-known relic of Christianity. It is a piece of linen that many believe wrapped the body of Jesus Christ after his crucifixion. The image of a man bearing wounds consistent with crucifixion is imprinted on the cloth, defying scientific explanation. Carbon-14 tests conducted in 1988 suggested the cloth dated to the Middle Ages, but new analyses have cast doubt on those results. How could such a detailed, three-dimensional image have been created without modern technology? More recent studies reveal that the shroud contains traces of human blood, identified as type AB, as well as pollen compatible with plants found in the Palestine region. These details reinforce its possible authenticity, but do not explain how the image was formed. Some scientists propose it could have been created by an inexplicable burst of energy, raising questions about a possible resurrection. But why was such a powerful object kept secret for so long? Another relic that arouses curiosity is the Spear of Destiny, attributed to the Roman soldier Longinus, who supposedly pierced Jesus' side during the crucifixion. Legend has it that this spear grants absolute power to its possessor. Historical figures like Napoleon Bonaparte and Adolf Hitler are said to have been obsessed with it, believing that control of it would guarantee unparalleled conquests. However, some reports suggest the spear may have been replicated and that the true one remains hidden. But who would control such a coveted object and why? Smaller relics, such as the alleged fragments of the True Cross, the cross upon which Jesus was crucified, also spark debates. During the Middle Ages, the quest for pieces of the cross became an obsession, leading churches to compete for them. Many believe most of these fragments were fabricated, yet they continue to be treated as devotional objects. Could it be faith itself that grants power to these relics, regardless of their authenticity? Among the most intriguing cases is the blood of Saint Januarius, kept in vials in the city of Naples, Italy. The liquid, which remains solid most of the year, miraculously liquefies on 3 specific dates. Scientists have investigated the phenomenon but failed to find a definitive explanation. Interestingly, historical records show that when the blood does not liquefy, catastrophic events like earthquakes and epidemics occur in the region. Coincidence or a supernatural warning? Defenders of relics argue that they are channels of divine energy, capable of performing miracles and connecting believers with the transcendental. Skeptics, on the other hand, view them as symbols, their impact more psychological than spiritual. But how to explain the countless reports of healing, protection, and transformation attributed to these items? The Catholic Church maintains strict control over many of these relics, storing them in hard-to-access locations or displaying them only on specific occasions. According to conspiracy theorists, this practice might be an attempt to protect even greater secrets. After all, if relics truly possess supernatural powers, whoever controls them could wield immeasurable influence over the world. Today, advanced technologies are being used to analyze relics. In the case of the Shroud of Turin, studies using high-precision microscopes and ultraviolet light have revealed previously unnoticed details, yet still offer no solution to the enigma. Is science limited in the face of something that transcends the physical world? Relics also play a significant emotional role. For many, touching or being near an object associated with sacred figures provides comfort and hope. Some researchers argue this emotional attachment proves their psychological impact. But is it merely psychological, or do these items truly possess an energy we cannot comprehend? Other cultures also have relics that defy logic. In Buddhism, for instance, sariras, supposed crystallized remains of spiritual masters, are revered as items of great devotion and said to hold healing and enlightening powers. These similarities across different religious traditions raise a fascinating question. Are relics distinct cultural expressions of the same universal phenomenon? Why do these relics seem to surface at crucial moments and places in history? Some theories suggest they are tools of manipulation used by religious institutions to consolidate power. Others, more spiritual, argue these objects may be fragments of a greater plan, gifts to guide humanity through moments of crisis. Despite technological advances and theological debates, the mystery of relics remains. They challenge science, stir faith, and pose questions that transcend generations. In the end, what makes a relic sacred? Its physical authenticity, or the belief it inspires? And if these relics truly carry a special energy, who decides how and where this energy will be used? Are we dealing with divine artifacts or tools carefully manipulated by human hands? Since the earliest centuries of Christianity, the rite of exorcism has been shrouded in mystery and controversy. It represents a direct confrontation between the sacred and the profane, where invisible forces challenge the limits of human understanding. Though many consider exorcism an archaic practice, its popularity has not waned over time. On the contrary, in the 21st century, accounts of possessions and requests for exorcisms continue to rise. But what lies behind these phenomena? One of the most emblematic cases took place in the United States in 1949 and inspired the famous film, The Exorcist. The protagonist of the story, a boy identified as Robbie Mannheim, began to exhibit disturbing behavior after playing with an Ouija board. Objects move around him on their own, scratches appeared on his skin, and he demonstrated aversion to religious symbols. His family, desperate, sought help from the Catholic Church, which authorized an exorcism. Father William Bowdern conducted the ritual, facing weeks of intense resistance. During the sessions, Robbie spoke in unknown languages, displayed superhuman strength, and uttered blasphemies. After several attempts, the evil spirit was supposedly expelled. But what really happened in that room? Was it a genuine case of possession, or a psychological disorder interpreted through the lens of faith? The exorcism ritual follows a strict protocol described in the Rituale Romanum, an official Catholic document. Before beginning, it is essential to confirm that the individual is possessed, which involves identifying specific signs such as aversion to sacred objects, knowledge of hidden facts, and the ability to speak unknown languages. But how to distinguish true possession from a medical or psychological condition? And there's the problem. What's supernatural and what's just the human mind crying out for help? Historical cases like that of Anneliese Michel in Germany in 1976 deepened the mystery. Anneliese, a deeply religious young woman, began exhibiting violent behaviors and claimed to be possessed. After months of exorcisms, she died from malnutrition and medical neglect. This case raised questions about the boundaries between faith and science. Was she really possessed, or was she the victim of an avoidable tragedy? Conspiracy theories suggest the Church knows more about possessions than it discloses. Some argue that exorcisms, rather than fighting evil, could be a form of psychological control. Others go further, asserting that certain possession cases are manifestations of interdimensional phenomena or even extraterrestrial experiences interpreted as demonic. Could the exorcism ritual be a tool for dealing with forces that transcend our understanding? Science also tries to explain the phenomena associated with possession. Psychologists say many of the symptoms may stem from disorders such as schizophrenia, epilepsy, or dissociative identity disorder. Yet even experts admit some cases present characteristics that defy conventional explanations. How to explain, for instance, marks appearing spontaneously on the body or objects moving with no visible intervention. The psychological impact of exorcisms is undeniable. Many individuals and families report feeling relief and peace afterward, as if an invisible burden had been lifted. But is that effect merely placebo, or is something truly being confronted in those moments? And why do so many of these cases occur in deeply religious settings? Interestingly, exorcism is not exclusive to Christianity. Similar practices exist in various cultures and religions, from indigenous shamans to Hindu ceremonies. This raises a fascinating question. Is possession a universal phenomenon, transcending religion, or just a reflection of each culture's beliefs? The resistance many exorcists face during rituals is also intriguing. Accounts describe invisible forces trying to prevent the ritual's completion, such as falling objects, sudden temperature changes, or even physical attacks. Are these events psychological, a product of the moment, or evidence of something beyond our understanding? In recent years, the Vatican has increased the training of exorcists in response to a surge in requests for the ritual. In areas like the Philippines and Mexico, demand has grown exponentially. This occurs in a world that is ever more rational and technological. What leads so many people to seek spiritual help against something they cannot explain? Contemporary possession accounts include disturbing details. Some individuals exhibit inexplicable abilities, such as speaking dead languages or revealing private information about witnesses. Do these cases prove a malevolent force, or are they demonstrations of the human subconscious mind? The Church itself keeps a veil of secrecy around many of these events. Information about exorcisms is rarely made public, and participants are instructed not to discuss details. Is this precaution meant to protect the faithful, or is a strategy to hide what really happens during these rituals? Exorcisms continue to challenge the boundaries between the natural and the supernatural. They force us to consider, are we dealing with external forces that threaten our existence, or with projections of our own human fear? And if you were to witness an exorcism, would you believe in the presence of evil, or would you seek a rational explanation? Are we truly prepared to face what goes on in these confrontations between light and darkness? On October 13, 1917, approximately 70,000 people gathered in the Cova da Iria field in Fatima, Portugal, drawn by the promise of a miracle announced by three children, Lucia, Francisco, and Jacinta. What happened on that day remains one of the most enigmatic and controversial events in religious history. Enigmatic and controversial, perfect words to describe a sun that dances in the sky while a crowd watches in awe. According to reports, the sun danced in the sky, emitted colorful rays, and moved closer to Earth, defying all known natural laws. The children claimed to have received messages from the Virgin Mary, who appeared to them for the first time in May 1917. For 6 consecutive months, the visions repeated, culminating in the promise of a great miracle in October. Even amid skepticism from locals and government authorities, a crowd of believers and onlookers gathered at the indicated spot. But why were so many people willing to witness something that seemed impossible? At the moment of the supposed miracle, the intense rain that had soaked the field abruptly ceased. The clouds parted, revealing the sun in a display that, according to witnesses, defied explanation. The star appeared to spin, emit colored lights, and move erratically before seemingly plummeting toward Earth. Despite the chaos and momentary panic, no one was harmed. How can we explain such an unusual phenomenon witnessed simultaneously by thousands of people? Accounts varied in detail, but the essence remained consistent. Something extraordinary had happened. Besides the faithful, journalists and skeptics present also confirmed the occurrence of unusual phenomena. Photographs taken that day, though limited by the technology of the time, did not capture the sun's movement, but they show the crowd entranced looking up. Could the event have been a collective illusion? Conspiracy theorists propose that the miracle of the sun could have been a manifestation of unknown technology, possibly extraterrestrial in origin. Descriptions of pulsating lights, erratic movements, and an object descending from the sky resonate with modern UFO sightings. Could the Fatima event have been something very different from the religious narrative? On the other hand, meteorologists tried to explain it as a rare atmospheric effect, such as sun halos or ice crystals refracting light. However, those explanations fail to account for the sun's reported movement, apparently experienced by a diverse crowd. Is science unable to grasp something that transcends the natural world? The Catholic Church, initially hesitant, investigated the event and in 1930 officially recognized the Fatima apparitions as miraculous. Yet part of the messages attributed to the Virgin Mary was kept secret for decades, fueling speculation. Known as the Third Secret of Fatima, this message was only revealed in 2000 and, according to the Vatican, concerned a prophecy about the persecution of the Church and the assassination attempt on Pope John Paul II. But why was this secret so carefully guarded? Many believe that the real content of the Third Secret has still not been fully disclosed. Conspiracy theories point to messages that could shake the very foundations of Catholic faith, such as warnings of global crises or even revelations of contact with beings from other worlds. Could the Church be hiding information out of fear of its impact? The children, the main witnesses of the event, faced intense pressure after the apparitions. Francisco and Jacinta died only a few years later, victims of the Spanish flu pandemic, while Lucia lived until 2005 as a nun in a convent. Throughout her life, Lucia remained firm in her account, but avoided publicly detailing the complete contents of the messages. Had she been instructed to conceal the more controversial aspects? The miracle of the sun had a profound impact. It turned Fatima into one of the world's largest pilgrimage sites, attracting millions of visitors every year. The event also reinforced the idea that divine manifestations can occur in times of crisis, bringing messages of warning and hope. But why do these events seem to occur in remote locations and before specific witnesses? Similar phenomena at other Marian apparitions raise intriguing questions. In Medjugorje, Bosnia-Herzegovina, luminous events and visions of the Virgin Mary reportedly began in 1981 and continue to be claimed to this day. Are these manifestations divine interventions, or is there a more mundane explanation we still do not understand? The miracle of the sun remains a challenge to both science and religion. It compels us to reconsider our perception of reality and our capacity to interpret the unknown. Was the event proof of divine intervention a collective illusion, or something more mysterious, perhaps related to forces we have yet to comprehend? Regardless of the explanation, the psychological and spiritual impact of the event was undeniable. For believers, the miracle strengthened their faith. For skeptics, it opened a new door to questioning. And for conspiracy theorists, it left clues that there's more to this story than the official narrative suggests. What unites enigmatic letters weeping statues, celestial apparitions, sacred relics, and exorcisms. Perhaps it is their ability to challenge our certainties and remind us that there are still mysteries that escape logic. Whether through faith, science, or conspiracy, each story carries a hidden truth waiting to be uncovered. The truth is out there, concealed in the margins of a system that no one dares to question. But if you're ready to see beyond what they show you, comment, and share this video with those who also need to wake up. Tell me, which mystery should we unravel in the next episode? Together, let's crack the codes they try to keep secret. This is only the beginning of the hidden secret.